topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Hello and welcome to Fearless, Fabulous You. I am your host, Melanie Young, and I am welcoming you all to my place today on this show live. And I want to remind everybody that this is an open conversation about whatever is exciting to me and hopefully exciting to you. And I think you're going to love this show for that reason. So I have a sign in my kitchen. And it says, life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. I've had a lot of storms in my life. They brought me to my knees. And I do believe that those people who fall to their knees learn to stand taller and higher and shine brighter. Well, my guest today helps women not only learn to dance in the rain, but probably take their clothes off and have amazing orgasmic fun doing it. That's right. Our guest is a best-selling author and someone I had the chance to actually connect with as an audience member when I was in New York at one of her wonderful graduations for a program she founded called the School of the Womanly Arts. Her name is Regena Thomashauer. She is a best-selling author, the founder of the School of the Womanly Arts, which I will have her explain. She is the best-selling author of a book called Pussy, a Reclamation, and she just launched a new book called On Our Knees, and it's loving your life even when you hate what's happening. And God, I have been there. That's the book. It just launched. Before I bring her on, I think we have a little sizzle reel. Juan's my engineer. Juan, are we ready to show that sizzle reel?
I'm Regena Thomashauer, or Mama Gena, and I believe that women are the greatest untapped natural resource on this planet.
Regena Thomashauer. She goes by Mama Gena.
Regena Thomashauer is an icon, teacher, author, mother, and founder and CEO of the School of Womanly Arts.
This is a woman who brought the word pussy power into the mainstream.
She's also known as Mama Gena. You're probably familiar with her best-selling book, Pussy, a Reclamation, that has hit the shelves and the hearts and the pussies of many women around the world, and men, actually.
Regena has written 4 popular books and has appeared on The Today Show, Late Night with Conan O'Brien, 2020, and more.
Literally tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of women and people of all genders can cite her as the source of one of the most powerful transformations they've ever had in their life.
We bring you Mama Gena!
Well, I have been there firsthand. My friend Pamela Morgan looked me straight in the eye one day and said, Melanie, you need to go to the School of the Womanly Arts. And when there was a graduation, she had me come and attend. And I tell you, it was one of the most amazing events I ever did attend. I've never seen women so wildly open and honest and free in their expression. And I think that's what Regena brings out. So I'm honored to have her join me on Fearless, Fabulous You to share her fabulous story.
Thank you so much, Melanie. I'm thrilled to be here with you today. So delightful.
Well, I wore pink for you and you're wearing that gorgeous outfit. And, you know, I love your story. I love it. But we always start at the very, beginning. Like, how did your life's purpose really, you grew up in New York, nice Jewish girl. I think you're a nice Jewish girl. And now your purpose is helping the business of women, helping them embrace their erotic pleasure and find their power. Where did this all start in you? Was there, well, you talk about it actually in your book, On Your Knees. Where did it all begin with little Regena?
Okay, once upon a time, because I think sometimes our purpose and our destiny can pop into our lives when we're little kids. And I came from a family where there was abuse patterning. And that has an impact on a little body and a little kid. And when I was around 5 years old, the goddess would come to me and she would sit on the edge of my bed by my pillow. And I would feel this warm, delicious feeling in my body. And I knew something amazing was happening. And when I would turn to look at her, she would disappear. And I thought, oh, wow, she must live in the periphery. But I thought somewhere someone was worshiping her. So I had my little friends take me to their churches or their temples so I could see if anybody prayed to this gorgeous goddess, but I never found anybody. So I stopped searching for a number of years and then eventually moved to New York City from Philadelphia to become an actor, which was my hope and my dream. But I had no confidence, Melanie. I was one of those unbelievably shy, depressed, filled with self-doubt, filled with disapproval, filled with I could not put one foot in front of the other, even to go to an audition. So I put myself in an acting class and I auditioned for that. And the teacher told me, he said, Regina, you're a good actress, but you have no sensuality in your body. I mean, what? I didn't actually. I spent all my time working or researching ancient goddess culture. I was like a little hermit. I didn't realize the consequence of the abuse. And so when he said that, I said, well, what do? I don't want to be cast as old ladies when I'm 25. And he said, go take a class in sensuality. And I was like, that's so scary. But that's what I did.
I'm actually surprised he said you have no sensuality. I mean, that must have been, if you were shy already and therefore maybe lacking self-confidence, that would have been just a deal killer for me. That's it. In fact, I tried to be an actress as well as a child, and then the pretty girls got all the parts, and I went through an ugly period and just said I'm done and focused on writing. So you kind of emerged from your thing. And I'm impressed by that. But I want to know, what did the goddess look like? What did the goddess look like? As a little girl, you have a goddess, and you have many goddesses in your life, and they're invoked in the book on your knees. Well, what did the first goddess look like? Who was she?
It wasn't a look. It was a feeling. It was a feeling like my nervous system was on high alert. But when the goddess appeared, it was this feeling of aliveness, of being held, of pleasure running through my body. I never actually saw her, but she touched me deeply. And here's the cool part, Melanie, because I believe there's different moments in life which they don't maybe seem monumental, but then they become monumental as our path unfolds. So that acting teacher that told me that I was too shut down to be cast as a role my age, I took a class called Basic Sensuality. I get to the class, I'm so scared, but they give us a homework assignment, and the homework assignment is to go home and pretend that the most important person in the world is coming to visit you. And I didn't realize, but the most important person that they were talking about was me. So they asked us to get flowers and special foods and draw a bath and light candles and play music. I'd never done anything like this for myself. I grew up taking care of my family, taking care of my boss, taking care of my girlfriends, but never pleasuring myself. So this was a brand new experience. And Melanie, I know you know this. When you create pleasure for yourself, time and space changes. And it was an incredible experience. And when I looked in the mirror during the exercise, I saw the goddess in my own reflection. And I was like, holy shit, that's where she's been hiding all these years inside of me. And I've been looking for her. And so I knew at that moment, I needed to somehow tell women all over the world that goddesses live inside of us, that it's not just man that was created in God's image, but that women are divine also. But meanwhile, I didn't know anything. I was a shy hermit that was depressed and disconnected and filled with doubt. So I wasn't about to go waving a goddess flag around the planet. But what I did do was I called that school and I said, this was valuable for me. And they said, well, why don't you study further with us? And they said, sure. And what you should know is that in addition to being a teaching institution, we are also a sex commune. And I said, well, that is really scary, but sign me up. And so I moved into a sex commune for 5 years, and I got the education of a lifetime there.
Was that upstate New York? It sounds like it should be upstate New York.
No, it's a school that still exists. It's magical. They are like the Vatican of female orgasm. It's called Lafayette Morehouse, and it's outside of San Francisco. And I was just there a couple months ago for an intensive because, it's just fun to go back and study the orgasmic experience at an even deeper level. So I had the opportunity to do that a few months ago. It was delightful.
Well, I just think that sounds like a great school.
It
really does.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So interestingly, you studied, you became skilled in finding your own pleasure and helping other women. When did you start literally giving small classes in your New York brownstone to start what became eventually the School of the Womanly Arts? What was that process? Because you literally started small and then you did some, I think, very shrewd things to grow big.
Yeah. I scaled the school over the years from a handful of women in my living room to literally thousands and thousands and thousands of women live at the Javits Center or other venues in and around New York. And then, of course, I've impacted hundreds of thousands of women online and through my books. But what happened was once I'd been at the school for 5 years and I left, and I was married at the time. And so I just started writing courses as a combination of my research of ancient goddess cultures through the work of Joseph Campbell, Ryan Eisler, Merlin Stone, Maria Gimbutas, etc. And then the orgasmic practices and the study of the female nervous system that I had done at Lafayette Morehouse. And so I wrote all kinds of courses. But then I had a baby girl. And once I had Maggie, I thought, what am I doing to make sure the world can handle who and what a woman is? And because the world does not know and still doesn't know how to handle who and what a woman is. And I thought, I need to start with women. I will create a school for women. I just became a mama. I'm going to call it Mama Gena School of Womanly Arts. I had 10 women in my living room, and boom, off to the races we went. And from starting that school, and then I painted a giant vulva in my vestibule, because one of the ways in which the feminine was worshipped thousands of years ago, pre-patriarchy, was in caves with the aperture of the cave painted as a vulva. So I thought, that's what I'll do. And I painted the vulva in my brownstone, and then boom, I started the school literally for my daughter, because I wanted to shift the world. That was my dream.
And you also needed to have financial stability as well. And you needed to do that. You were a working mom. You were supporting your daughter. Your marriage was there, but I think at some point it went off the rocks.
It was wobbly. It was wobbly, from the beginning. And then by the time Maggie was 7, what happened was I told my husband, this is utterly my fault. I said to him, look, you run the back end of the business. I'm going to write the books. I'm going to teach the classes. I'll do all the appearances. I'll go on TV. You just handle the business. Meanwhile, I didn't check and see if he was skilled at it. I was just like, oh, men do that. Warning, warning, warning. That was inaccurate. So I was the one that signed all of the, tax returns, etc. So it was my fault too. So when I come back from my 3rd book, which is called Mama Gena's Marriage Manual, by the way, don't ever write a marriage manual, because you will get a divorce. I come back from that thing, and there's a lien on us for $250,000.
Right.
And so I freaked out, and I realized, like, okay, the marriage is wobbly. Now it is done. He's got to go. And I, who knows nothing about business, never wanted to know anything about business, just wanted to be the little pixie dancing on the cupcake. I was like, I'm going to have to become a badass businesswoman and figure out how to raise my kid, how to put food on the table, how to pay for school, how to scale my business so I can support us. And so just on sheer grit, determination, and ultimately goddess power, because there are goddesses who are so potent and so powerful out there, ready to swoop in and support us when we make bold choices. I was able to scale my company from negative to making millions of dollars.
Well, first of all, we probably have a lot of people who are watching or listening who may be experiencing this, and I did the same mistake. So
yeah,
I had a very successful culinary events public relations agency, and my dad, who I trusted wholeheartedly at a CPA, was my CFO.
Wow.
Little did I know his business was failing. He borrowed against my company.
No.
Signed my name, and I was served in the middle of one of my events. after
Melanie,
he died.
I'm freaking out. This is crazy.
So, Mama Gena, Melanie Young, around Daddy, I'll fix it. He was my fixer. But when he died, everything became unfixed.
Wow.
Unlike you, I also got breast cancer and said, I'm done. That was my way. I'm done. I'm going to rewrite a whole new life.
Wow.
So it is, a lot of women think the man can handle it. Listen, everyone, get your finances in order and become savvy about it and get people you can trust. That's so important. Anyway, it's not the husband, it's not daddy. Right?
Yeah.
So,
but honestly, Melanie, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because there's a way in which I was a little hippie chick fresh off the commune. And I would never I wouldn't even have thought to run an empire, to become a powerful businesswoman. But remember, I was running on fuel that is so innate and potent inside the feminine. I was tapped into the great pussy in the sky, and I had studied orgasm for 5 years. Now, orgasm or pleasure or erotic life force, they're all the same thing, isn't just a recreational activity. It is a biological miracle. Pleasure is actually medicine. It triggers hormonal fireworks that the pharmaceutical industry has been trying to replicate for decades, because the body releases oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone. It's the same hormone that floods the body after childbirth. It lowers cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and it calms inflammation. And oxytocin teaches the nervous system to trust and to soften. And for someone like me who lived her whole life in fight or flight, it was a revelation. And then there's dopamine. Now, dopamine the nickname is called the hope chemical. And I think there are so many women in our culture that are dopamine deprived when we're pleasure deprived, and you feel depressed, you feel disconnected, you are not motivated, you cannot put one foot in front of the other. You are disconnected from your voice, your power, your creativity. And dopamine serves as a mood elevator, an antidepressant, and it rewired my brain from terrified to curious. And then there's the endorphins that are released during a pleasurable experience, which calm pain. And then there's prolactin, which gives contentment. And it activated my parasympathetic system, and it shifted me from freeze to safety. So I really believe that orgasm or pleasure or erotic life force is medicine. It's kind of like a medicine cabinet inside of ourselves that we can access. And the pharmaceutical industry has been trying to replicate this for decades with SSRIs and antidepressants, etc. But we have the ability to repattern our nervous system. So because I had this practice, I was able to really meet the moment in a very unique way. I'm not saying I wasn't terrified, but I'm saying that I was able to move forward and take a step after step after step.
Well, it was a wise move, a big investment, and a big leap, because you went from brownstone to a stage. I attended one of your graduations.
Yeah.
It was in a ballroom. There were thousands of women. There was a lot of pussy grabbing, and there was a lot of older woman, got up on stage, and she was older than me. She said, I thought I was done. My husband died, and I thought mine was over. And Mama Gena told me she showed me my pleasure again, and I'm open. The shop is open, is what she said. And I was so moved by that. Her confidence at I think she was probably in her 70s, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. She was a grandmother. She said it. She said, I'm open for business. And I just was like, so many women live of every age. And particularly now with like this move to the traditional this and the traditional that. So many women are closing up shop, trying to fit into norms, whether it's work or relationships, and they're losing their pleasure side because they're trying to be more productive or purposeful, or you put the other P's in there, and they're focused on parenting, but pleasure is all of that as well. I mean, pleasure is not only orgasmic pleasure, it's the joy of being you and going out, and suddenly everything just your senses are heightened in your sensuality and your sensuosity.
Yeah, I would say that pleasure rewires self-worth and
Yes.
motivation. And healthy pleasure restores the brain's reward circuitry, which is often damaged by chronic stress or shame.
Right.
And that's why women who begin to reconnect with their pleasure, they leave bad relationships, they start businesses, they create, they speak up. I think women don't lack confidence, they lack the biological state that makes confidence possible. And from what I see with the women that I'm working with now in the classes that I teach, women aren't failing because they're weak. They're exhausted from living in chronic vigilance, work pressure, caregiving, aging parents, finances, the world feeling unstable. So we're in brace mode. And that's honestly why I wrote On Our Knees, because I realized like, whoa, we are the world is feeling more unstable than ever. The stresses are more than ever, the exhaustion more than ever. And you cannot access intuition, creativity, desire, or even love when your body thinks it's surviving.
Well, On Your Knees, and we're going to put the cover up right now. It's very different from your other, you have Pussy, a Reclamation was your first book, and you've written several. This one is very personal. And it says, loving your life even when you hate what's happening. Well, I was there when I had to move home to my childhood bedroom and take care of my belligerent mother who refused to get up and out of bed. So I was trying to love my life when I hated what's happening. And it was a challenge. And I did certain things to try to adapt, because here I am trying to have a fearless, fabulous you show while I was hating what was going on in my life. You had some things happen in your life during your highs that you also had to deal with. One of them is your daughter has dealt with an eating disorder, which you had to refocus to save your daughter from a terrible thing that, she had she was facing the things that you were teaching other women. Yeah. She was facing in her own life.
Yeah, absolutely. And first of all, I want to be clear. I didn't save my daughter. My daughter saved herself.
Good point.
Because that's how it's done.
Yes.
And she did go through a period, but this new book is about using those moments where we fall to our knees, because all of us will be brought to our knees more than once in our lifetime. And it might be in the hospital room. It might be at the graveside. It might be during a financial crisis. It could be through a health crisis, a diagnosis. There are so many moments where we get brought to our knees. And what happens inside the world that we live in right now is, well, Melanie, let me ask you, when you were growing up, what did your family or your colleagues or your peers teach you to say when someone says, "How are you?"
They didn't. I had to figure it out. No one ever asked, it's like in the South.
Like, well, what do you, like, what?
Well, we usually just say, just fine. Just
exactly.
Fine. So in the South, it's like this, how are you? And then it's like, I'm just fine, thank you. Because you're never allowed in the South to talk about you're never going to see, everything's got to be fine. In my life, everything had to be fine. My mother never wanted to hear any of my problems and would shut me off immediately when I go, Mom, I'm having a problem. Mom, I'm in a mess. She would shut me off and hang up the phone.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you just
it's not just in the South. It's also in the North and the East and the West and everything in between.
Exactly.
We're taught when someone says, how are you? You say fine. Or you can say okay, and you're allowed to say good also, but that's it. And the difficulty there is fine is formaldehyde.
Precisely. You say that in the book.
To a life, to a human being. And what happens is, if you think of us, we have this emotional range of 88 keys of a piano, and we're always playing middle C over and over and over and over and over again. And so our life force shrinks and shrinks and shrinks because we are not using or surrendering to the full range of what it means to be a woman. And the invitation of on our knees is to surrender. Now, surrender is not about weakness. It's about connecting to your erotic life force, your aliveness, to the fullness of who you are. Why? Because when you connect to that erotic aliveness, you are in full expression of who you are, and you are, rather than being in full repression of who you are, which is how we're taught to live. And so this book is, it's designed with 10 chapters. Each chapter has an initiation, connecting a woman to a storyline about a goddess that was a warrior, a goddess who was a liberator, a goddess who rescued her daughter from the underworld, the goddess of beauty, goddess of love, like tracking the spectacular expansiveness of the feminine. And we don't know those stories. We just know Moses and Abraham and Jesus and that kind of thing, Muhammad. And they are not inspiring to the body and soul of the feminine in the same way the stories of the goddesses are.
Well, as a little girl, I used to read Greek mythology. I was obsessed with it.
That's so cool.
So I read Greek. I knew all the goddesses. My favorite. I love the story of Demeter. Demeter's because I do a lot in the world of food and agriculture in my other life. And Demeter, her story with Persephone and the seasons and the pomegranate is probably one of my most powerful and favorite of all the goddess stories. And the other, of course, is Athena. I love the goddess of wisdom because I do believe that you have superpowers up and down from your head to your toes, and your brain is amazingly sexy and powerful.
That is so great. What did you love about the Demeter Persephone story?
Persephone was stolen by Hades and taken to the underworld, and Demeter went into this horrible depression, which ended up major famine, which ruined the agriculture of the world.
Right.
That's right. Save the world and to save herself, she had to save her daughter and negotiated for her daughter to only spend 6 months of the year in Hades and 6 months on Earth. And there was a pomegranate in there. She only ate half the seed. There's another story there because that's a pomegranate has other symbols. And that's how we got our seasons. And it basically saved the world and the world's agricultural system. But it was that superpower.
Do you remember the story of the goddess Balbo, who was the one who saved Demeter?
No.
Okay, this is so cool. You're going to love this. So Demeter is wandering the earth, ancient Greece, going from city to city, desperately looking for her daughter. She's weeping. She's in devastation. She can't eat. Right. All life is dying on the planet, as you mentioned. And she, in a little village, family takes her in for the night, and they have there's a goddess who's masquerading as their servant, who brings her a bowl of soup to try to get her to eat. And this goddess is named Balbo. And so Balbo comes in with a little tray, and she brings it to Demeter. And Demeter is like, no, I can't eat. So Balbo does the most extraordinary thing that always brings life. She lifts up her skirts and she flashes her pussy at Demeter. And then she tells Demeter all these bawdy, raucous jokes. And what happens is with this pussy flash and these bawdy jokes, Demeter laughs and she comes back to life. She remembers, oh, I am she who bleeds but does not die and gives life. I am woman. I am the source of life. Oh, and following that encounter with Balbo, she realized, holy shit, it's Hades that has my kid. Because when you are disconnected from your erotic life force, you can't think outside the box or inside the box. You can't think creatively. And so Balbo, with a pussy flash, saved not only Demeter and Persephone, but the earth itself.
I love that. I did not know that story. And it's a great, I mean, it's just incredible. And in many ways, women are stuck. Many women are stuck. They're stuck in their heads. They're stuck in lives they don't want. They're stuck trying to figure out what's next. They're stuck in the advancement of getting older and feeling like they're being discarded. Things happen to them that they can't control, but they can. And a lot of what you write about, and let's put the book cover up one on your knees, is dealing with that. Because you do have to draw upon your own superpower and goddess to arise up from where you are on your knees. And everybody gets there at some point.
Exactly. And so this book is not about, well, let me set it up a little bit. You know how in the patriarchal culture, we have heaven and we have hell. And no one really wants to go to hell, right? Not so much. Because hell is like a punishment, like when you've been bad, you've broken the rules, you've gotten caught doing something naughty, or you get threatened, by somebody like who goes to church, or your grandma or your family. They said, you're going to go to hell if you keep behaving that way. So it's used as a threat. Now, in the world of the divine feminine or goddess, there is no heaven and there is no hell.
Right.
There is the underworld. And the underworld is not a place to be feared. It's just another place where goddesses hang out and they navigate. It is for example, when I was navigating that huge tax debt, from one perspective, that must have looked to certain people as if that was a terrible thing to happen to a young mom. But if we look at it through the lens of the divine feminine or the goddess, there is holy in everything, sacred in everything and everyone. And there is an opportunity for expansion everywhere. There is no differential between the goddesses believe that birth was just as sacred and beautiful as death, and that life cycles, as you mentioned, they're key for agriculture. Mm-hmm. So when I went into the fear or the challenge of being absolutely flat ass broke and $250,000 in debt, because I had a pleasure practice, meaning I knew how to run erotic life force in my body constantly and continually, even with a solo practice, whether or not I had a partner, I knew how to turn my body on. So I was able to stay connected with my aliveness and my life force as I called in the goddess Freya, who's the Norse warrior goddess. Mm-hmm. And I figured out, okay, I am going to be a warrior now, in addition to everything else I'm doing. And I was able to navigate the divorce, redesign the company to be more profitable, move the school out of my living room into larger venues in New York City. And basically, it was only through that challenge that I was able to change the lives of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of men and women through my work, because I had to grow. So that was because I was able to love my life. Even when I hated what's happening, And those are the storylines of inspiration that live inside the pages of that book. So it's really for any woman who's being challenged or in any area of her life. You'll find a story in that book that will bring you home to yourself.
Well, just about every woman is challenged in her life. I don't know
That's
anyone
right.
who isn't. I mean, people call me all the time, and they're challenged, and it's like, wow. And you know, I feel for every woman who is, but it's part of the passage of life. If you were one of the few that can go through life unchallenged, wow, you are blessed. But most women do. It is just the stages of it. And many of my listeners are over 50, and they're dealing with ageism. They're dealing with rethinking, you know, maybe they are starting another life, what I call the rewirement stage, or they are thrust into caregiving, which is a passage of life. And this book speaks to them very much so, because you can't lose yourself in your identity in these other things. You got to stay true to yourself and also take care of yourself and embrace pleasure, because, you know, without that, I think the point of pleasure is, as you said, it brings on the oxytocin. It brings on all the chemistry that rewires your body and keeps it from not burning out.
Exactly. And when a woman creates pleasure in her own body, because you don't have to have a partner to create pleasure in your body. You don't even have to touch your pussy to have pleasure in your body. You can create a pleasure practice. You know, women can have all those hormonal changes inside their bodies with a hot, sexy dance break in the kitchen by yourself or with another. And when a woman creates pleasure in her own body, the brain forms a feedback loop. There's sensation, attention, response, reward. And that loop is the neurological basis of intuition, boundary recognition, and desire awareness. Why? Because she is noticing signals from her body. And a woman who feels subtle pleasure can feel subtle misalignment. It doesn't just increase desire, it sharpens discernment. So it's very potent to have a pleasure practice. It's life-changing, it's game-changing. And I go into that at an even deeper level in On Our Knees.
And I think it's important, you know, it's pleasure is not always sexual. I remember when I went to the graduation class, I left there and I just had a bordello photo done of myself after my mastectomy, and I was already feeling my body. But I remember just going out and having a huge hot Southern biscuit, just dripping in butter and jam. And just
yummy.
Every bite of it tasted so good. It was like pleasure for me. And then I took a day off and just enjoyed myself and with no and disconnected. And that was pure pleasure. So there's orgasmic pleasure, and then there's pleasure that just feels orgasmically amazing because you feel unfettered.
Yeah.
You feel head to toe better and electric.
Yeah.
And that can happen through a lot of things. It doesn't happen between, you know, like I always, you know, it's certain areas of touch, just touch, an inner arm, an ankle, a neck, better, beautiful fabric. It can all happen and bring you pleasure.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And I always tell my husband that, you know, because men always just have like one area that seems to be the pleasure portal for them. But I'm like, no, there's more. You know,
men are so open and so willing to learn, and our bodies are uniquely wired for pleasure. Why? We have 10,000 nerve endings dedicated to pleasure, which is our clitoris. And, you know, just as function follows form, right? I mean, I couldn't serve a slice of pizza in a water glass, but I can serve a slice of pizza on a plate. So you have to think, what did the great pussy in the sky mean when she designed this woman's body with 10,000 nerve endings dedicated to pleasure? She must have had something amazing, incredible in mind. And my thought, what I've learned from my literally thousands and thousands of students over the past 20 plus years is that if 10,000 of your thoughts every day are not about pleasure, 10,000 of your decisions, 10,000 of your dreams, 10,000 of your desires, then you're not living the design of what it means to be a woman. When you're not living your design, your life shrinks. When you begin to live your design and you take that erotic pleasure from a dripping biscuit as much as you would take in the arms of your lover or in the arms of yourself sensually, or from a sunset that undresses the sky, then you're not living your design. And it is a practice, but it's a practice that's worthy of building, because there's nothing that will fuel the feminine body more than pleasure. I am not interested in how hard women can work. I know how hard you can work. You work way too motherfucking hard. But I am interested in how much pleasure you take every single day before that sun sets, because that's what will shift a life from being mediocre to being spectacular. The more pleasure that you take today, right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And a lot of women are in a productivity rut, because it was so put on us for so long that we had to get ahead. And because we're competing, we're always competing against men. I think we forgot the other process of life, which is enjoying and having great pleasure. And then there was the guilt factor about it, and we should never feel guilty about it.
Well, we live in a culture that does not encourage women to soften and to open into their highest and best, which is why I wrote On Our Knees, because we all need to remind each other of the magic and the magnificence of being a living, breathing, gorgeous, alive, like the gift of being in this absolutely spectacular, sexy, delightful feminine body. And it's so important to celebrate and so important to remember, because it's not just on behalf of ourselves, but we have to hold open doors for the girls of today who will be the women of tomorrow.
And they're facing more pressure than ever, because they have peer pressure and FOMO pressure, and social media is creating artificial examples of perfection and thinness and everything, and it's creating a level of anxiety in young women that I've never seen before. We have never seen before.
And so here's the thing. How do girls and young women learn their relationship with their body and their relationship with pleasure and their relationship with the sheer delight and joy of being a woman? They learn from us. So it almost spreads like a virus. If you walk into a room and you're filled with self-doubt, you're filled with self-hatred, you are spreading the virulent condition of self-doubt and self-hatred. But if you do the work of learning how to fall irrevocably in love with yourself for no reason, and to take delight and joy by virtue of being a woman, then what you do is spread the virulent condition of self-love to all the women you encounter, all the little girls that you encounter, and you begin to elevate just by doing nothing. You're just being yourself. She'll ride the vibe. Last night at my book launch in New York City, I had a little 5-year-old girl sitting in the front row with me, and I did this exercise with everybody where I had everybody kind of put their hand on their pussy and kind of do like kind of a dance break in their seat. So it was like a little bit of a sexy moment. And then I asked people, how did that make you feel? And the responses were alive, really elevated. And I asked the little girl, and she said, I feel like I belong. And I was just so touched and blown away by that, because it is through our erotic aliveness and our sensuality that we feel our sense of belonging. And it is so deeply, deeply important for a woman to have a sense of belonging, because when you have that sense that, oh, this life is mine, this planet is so delicious. And I am doing a runway as I walk down the street. It is so key and so important because we pass that legacy on.
I think that's wonderful. And it's so exciting. Congratulations on a successful launch. I mean, you've written successful best-selling books, another level of, to recognize all you've done to help women change their lives and embrace their super pleasure. And I think it's wonderful. Let's make sure before we wrap, share where can my fans follow you and get more information.
Oh, absolutely. Well, first of all, you can order my gorgeous new book on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Actually, my favorite is any little local bookstore, because we got to keep supporting our little local bookstores because they're magical. I love going in and roaming around a bookstore. If people want to follow me on Instagram, I post all the time amazing content that will turn you on, connect you to your aliveness. It's Mama Gena, MAMAGENA on Instagram. If you want to receive my newsletters, because I'm a brilliant writer and I love to write my newsletters, I do it every single week, and I love to communicate with people in this way. You can go to my website, sign up for my newsletter, mamagenas.com, and you'll find your way there, and you can sign up for my newsletter. I have amazing courses coming up all the time, but check out On Our Knees because it's a baller book and just came out. It's brand new.
It is. It really, there was a lot there. And I'm like, wow. I mean, I really felt like I got to know you because I saw your stage persona. But this, I feel like I really got to know you. And thank you for joining me now. I feel like I got to know you more. So again, we've been talking to Regena Thomashauer. The new book is On Our Knees, Loving Your Life Even When You Hate What's Happening. You're going to love it. So go out and buy it. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it.
It was a joy to connect with you, Melanie. And you're doing amazing, amazing work in the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And for everyone out there, thank you for joining me again on Fearless Fabulous You. You can follow me at Melanie Fabulous. This show will be up on YouTube at the Women for Women Network and at my Melanie Young page. And you can also follow it, listen to it on over 65 podcast channels anytime. Remember, you have choices in life on how you want to live. Live them on your terms and not on terms that other people set for you. Always put your self-care first and always choose fearless and fabulous. Thank you.
Yay!